Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Them Nerds. I am Tony. That handsome piece on the other side of the screen is Jerry. We are going to talk today on our Fantasy Friday show about our plans for bringing the Netflix Marvel universe into the current MCU. Now, I know the Netflix shows were technically kind of connected to the MCU canon. They mentioned that thing in New York, that gigantic alien invasion. But really it never touched on anything else MCU related. So now that we have Disney Plus, now that we have all of these films coming out, it's a shame to get rid of these characters. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that's going to work, or how at least we would make it work. Are you listening, Kevin Feige?
Probably not. He's counting his money.
Just rolling around in it.
Probably.
Buck naked. Like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
Just diving in. All right. So first of all, let's just go back a little bit and remind the audience and ourselves, because we're old. Well, I am, at least.
Black don't crack.
Well, I don't know what I am, but it cracks. So we, of course, had Daredevil, which was the first Netflix Marvel property to come out. Had 3 seasons. We had Luke Cage, which my personal favorite. Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and, of course, all 4 of them together as The Defenders, and then The Punisher. These 5 properties never disappointed me. They were always great in my estimation. The strong point for me, especially with Daredevil, Luke Cage, and not Punisher too, but especially those first 2 were the villains. Kingpin and Jessica Jones, Kilgrave.
Yes.
And Cottonmouth. Holy crap, dude. They were amazing villains. The villains in these shows were so good. Everything in these shows. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and be a fangirl for too long. So which of them was your favorite?
I think Luke Cage was definitely mine. I mean, I think that it was the most well thought out. The casting, like from top to bottom, on all the shows, but really on there, I thought was amazing. I mean, the idea you have Alfred Woodard. Either way. Like I said, I ain't trying to be here to be an English teacher. It was absolutely amazing, and held her own for the both seasons of Luke Cage. I mean, she brought real power to that character, and Michael Cutler was amazing as Luke Cage. I mean, I probably could have done without Night Nurse. I never really got too into that character. So
I liked her as sort of a connective tissue between the shows. It reminded me a little bit of Nick Fury and Maria Hill in the film universe. I loved Daredevil. I loved Luke Cage. One of my favorite things that they've ever done in any of the Marvel stuff in the modern era, at least, is the hallway scene with Luke Cage, where he goes in with the car door and just starts bashing people.
Which was really also a connective tissue, because pretty much every series had a hallway scene. Yes.
Oh yeah, the Daredevil hallway scene in the first season was ridiculous. So good. I am sad that Cottonmouth got killed, but of course we're going to get to see Mahershala Ali again in Blade. He's going to be Blade, the Daywalker.
I also think that they're good characters that you already know have a solid fan base behind them. So it's a waste to get rid of them.
Yeah. When you have characters that are they may not be frontline characters. Daredevil, I think, might be, but Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, they're even though Iron Fist is a personal favorite of mine, I feel like they've always been sort of second, kind of second tier. Although I know there's a lot of folks that really got into comics because of Luke Cage's time as Power Man in the 70s. when there's a whole lot of socio-political reasons why we could get into that, but it was a great character. They have these characters who are well-known characters. They're well acted. Their stories were fleshed out well. They had amazing villains, and now they're just what? Gone? No, not if we have anything to say about it, because everybody's listening to them nerds.
Yes.
There are more people listening to them nerds today than there were the last time we did one of these.
So.
Thank you, by the way, all of you out there that are subscribing and liking and viewing and commenting. It's fun. It's fun to have the channel grow. So let's get into the fantasy portion of things. Both of us kind of agree, I think. Are we changing any casting?
I think the casting was done amazingly well. I think if there was any room for growth of character to change out, I would only see maybe Jessica Jones and Iron Fist being those two characters. Because Jessica Jones really at the end of season 2 for her show was pretty, it was over. Like, they wrapped it up. So you could, go a couple of years out and be able to recast it. And I don't think it's going to cause that much, especially we're getting into a multiverse kind of idea. And Iron Fist, although I thought he did a somewhat decent job at playing Danny Rand, I don't know if his character was ever really developed because the writing wasn't really there. And so I think that they could probably, he's out there, with his finger guns now or whatever he's got, and he can go out there and come back and just be, 10 years older and be a different guy that's playing him. But I think that for sure, Punisher, Daredevil, and Luke Cage need to come back as originally casted. I also think Colleen Wing needs to stay the casting they have. Misty Knight needs to be kept as the casting they had. Hellcat is not only a big character within the Jessica Jones world, but also with She-Hulk. So you have a possibility of being able to have her pop up over there also.
And not to mention, she also in the comics had a long relationship with Damon Hellstrom, who is going to be having his own show on Hulu. Who knows? Maybe that would be a good place for her to pop up as well. I totally agree with your assessment of the casting. The only main heroes that I would be okay with would be Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. And like I said in a previous show, poor Danny Rand. Iron Fist is one of my favorites, and his story, he's always kind of an odd fit with the rest of these because Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, the Punisher, they all have their origins are kind of grounded. I mean, of course, crazy medical testing and, all these things, whatever, but they're relatively normal kind of superhero backgrounds for a street level superhero. Danny Rand's out here punching dragons in the heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's a little different. His origin being a little more mystical kind of made him a little bit of an odd fit to me. But with Shang-Chi coming out soon and having that same sort of mystical dragon-related thing, I think that he deserves a different sort of treatment. But, we'll get there later. Bringing these in to the MCU. If you were to bring these characters into the MCU, let's run them down. Let's start with the Punisher. If I was going to bring the Punisher back into the MCU, it would be one of two ways. Either he would come back with his own show, stand alone, and then they could tie him in through different events or whatever later. But how I'd like to see it done is I would like to see him show up either midway through the first season or in the second season of the upcoming Moon Knight series. They are both violent, R-rated sorts of heroes, and I think that they would play really well together. They also interacted a lot during the Marvel Knights era in the comics, and that's how I would bring Punisher in. You got any plans for old Frank Castle?
I actually think that's the way that you should go. I don't know how Marvel being owned by a Disney franchise, how you really bring Punisher in without having him be too watered down. So I think that if they're going to go a more dark route with the Moon Knight character, that's probably the way you're going to do it. I really don't. I think that the nice thing about the Punisher, even on Netflix, he had a standalone series, but he popped up in small roles throughout other people's series, is what made him popular with everybody in the first place. Right. So I think that he could be a jump off point for these more ground level characters to tie him together.
Sure. Yeah, that's a common thing that we've seen with the MCU, both on in not only in the comics, but moving into the MCU in the films. We've had all these little cameos that kind of tied the different films together and allowed characters a little bit more development outside of their own projects. Do you have any thoughts on how to bring Iron Fist back in a way that is actually respectful to the character? Because I
The only way
don't.
that I can see it even possibly going anytime soon would be it had to be coming through the Shang-Chi movie. I really think that Iron Fist, because I don't think that people had a really horrible, feeling on the casting of Iron Fist. It was really the storytelling of the whole thing. So, and the sad thing about it wasn't even so much that it was a storytelling issue. It was his specific storytelling, because there was other characters in that show that people really liked. Like the Colleen Wing was
Sure.
like, people loved her being in there. Misty Knight being on that show, that people liked her on there.
Yeah.
I don't remember the sibling's name at this moment, but people hated them the first season and grew to like them the second season. So like there was character development within that show. It was just, I felt like they went with this whole fish out of water idea for Danny Rand, and it came off more of a superhero Kimmy Schmidt
Yes.
feel. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
he's not that far removed from society or out of that. He's going to be all like, oh, I walk around barefoot and I do this. Like, it was very, I don't know if they went the direction that the character deserved.
Yeah.
And so I think the shelving Iron Fists for a few years would not be a big issue, especially when you're trying to build up Shang-Chi.
Yes.
So
I agree. If I could go back and do his personal origin a little bit differently when they introduced him on Netflix, I like the idea of him coming back to the city and sort of being out of sorts. But instead of him skipping through the city barefoot, like, he's been locked in a bunker like Kimmy Schmidt.
yeah,
I think that it would have served the series a lot more if he would have had some kind of an interaction with someone that could have like told him, like, this is a different environment. You have to stay down. You have to be in the shadows. You have to, work your way in. And instead of having him just like tiptoeing through the tulips all over New York City, have him kind of like, in alleys and have his hood down and kind of hiding in the shadows and trying to get a feel for everything, and then kind of like introducing himself slowly and in a little more of a careful way, instead of just being like, hey guys, I'm Danny Rand. Yeah. I know ninja stuff.
Yeah, they should have that guy scream out, I'm alive, damn it.
Why not? We're going.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was the lost of the thing that, people were just like, I don't know about. That was the one character. So I think really they should just shelve Iron Fist, give it like 2 or 3 years, and then bring in a new person and, definitely a new writing team. So
right. So Jessica Jones, I don't care about Jessica Jones. Sorry.
See, I do. I think that Jessica Jones, her first season was one of the best written shows that they put out.
It was.
Secondly, in the comics, there's a lot of connection that she has with main characters like Luke Cage. She's the mother of his child. She's a raging alcoholic because that child ends up dead. I mean, like, there's like a lot of stuff that they could build around. And she also plays big roles in a lot of story arcs that we know for a fact are coming down the pike. So having her be maybe she doesn't need to be like a main star of something, but she could be a friend of that just pops in and, or I would love the idea of maybe we don't get the Jessica Jones from Netflix. Maybe it's a Jessica Jones from a multiverse that pops in that's already pregnant with a different Luke Cage's child.
Interesting. And when I say I don't care about Jessica Jones, I don't mean like I don't care about the character. I just mean coming off of Netflix, I'm kind of done. Like you said, they kind of buttoned it up pretty well. I don't feel that like that same kind of like desire to see her back the same way I do with some of the others. Like I feel robbed of Luke Cage. Luke Cage was amazing, and I feel like they took the knees out from under it at the worst possible time. If I was bringing back Luke Cage, I would not necessarily have him as a standalone. I would have a Heroes for Hire series that would allow us to also bring back Colleen Wing and Misty Knight and maybe Danny Rand in a supporting role. We already, and maybe they can just kind of gloss over the origin. We don't have to deal with the whole Dragon Punch situation. Uh, I love the character, and I hope they get Mike Coulter to continue playing him because he was great. I think he was perfect Luke Cage. What do you think about Luke Cage? You got any other plans to bring him back?
I like the idea of where he left off. We're having him his own version of a kingpin status, and maybe that's how you bring them in, having the kingpin fighting the kingpin of Harlem, and but yet, although he's a kingpin of Harlem, he's also still is a hero at the end of the day. So you bring him in more of a fighting against himself and the idea that he's having to fill this role in, and maybe that's how he develops like Heroes for Hire, or something like that. I think that's the way you go about it.
I like that idea. If it gets me back Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, then I'm all in. That's David Tennant as Purple Man and D'Onofrio as Kingpin were probably my two favorite castings in the entire time that Netflix did this. So
I also think it would just be amazing to have, somebody from the MCU, maybe even like Nick Fury, walk into the club and have Luke Cage look him in the face and say like "Sweet Christmas" or something.
Sweet Christmas. Good stuff. The big one. I think the one that everybody is most clamoring for, it would be Daredevil. I think that there's a lot more connections that could bring Daredevil back in. How would you bring Daredevil back?
I mean, obviously we have a situation going on right now where you're going to have some of our MCU characters dealing with legal trouble. So, I mean, you have the aspect that he's a lawyer. I think that he could come back in. I wouldn't mind seeing, if we're dealing with the other characters being more Disney Plus characters at the moment, I think Daredevil should be brought back actually in the MCU, like actually on the big screen in a movie, and maybe fighting along Spider-Man, or I don't know, maybe in the Hawkeye film, because I know Hawkeye is going to be taking place in New York City, so I mean that might be a possibility too.
Sure. Yeah, I like the idea of him kind of coming in. Like, we know as the fans, we know who he is, but him coming in as just Matt Murdock, lawyer, and having him I would say either bring him in, like you said, with Spider-Man, because he's obviously going to have some legal troubles, or perhaps tie him in to She-Hulk. She is also a lawyer. Easy connection.
I honestly think that the Karen Page character and Froggy could be working for Jennifer when She-Hulk, when her law firm or something, so that building up that idea. Maybe you don't even ever see Matt Murdock as an attorney. You see him more as Daredevil, like flying around and causing stuff, and then you see him a courtroom scene where he walks in and you see Charlie Cox come back as Daredevil.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's possible to recast, but I wouldn't do that one. And I also think that Elektra was a good character who I don't think should be recast.
No, I think that's the whole point of it is I get that, Marvel's going in this direction that if we didn't cast it, we don't want it. But obviously that's not true, because there's plenty of characters that are being brought back right now that are from different MCUs, our Marvel extended family. Tobey Maguire, and maybe some of those people like Kevin Feige had a play or a role in the idea of who might have got put in there, but he wasn't involved in any of these people, and you don't have a problem bringing them back. So if you know that these characters have a fan base, keep them.
Yes.
It's not that hard. I mean, like, if you can give me a character that's 100 times better that makes me forget about the Netflix person, then go for it. But if you're just trying to replace it so you can have your stamp of this is the person that I chose, and that person's not going to live up to what we've already seen on Netflix, I think you're making the wrong choice.
Totally agree. Well, none of these people have been announced. None of their properties have been announced. I know there was sort of a moratorium between them getting canceled on Netflix and being able to show up in Disney properties.
I think that Daredevil actually becomes usable this month or next month. So
just in time to get him filming his scenes on Spider-Man 3.
Yes, and I think that they should do that.
I believe so. All right. So that is our Fantasy Friday. What do you think about the Netflix Marvel characters? Comment below. Who should come back? Who should stay gone? How should they be introduced? We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you, with you about these things. Okay? Don't forget to like, subscribe, share if there's something that you enjoy. Who knows? Maybe you've got a nerdy friend that would like it. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at We Them Nerds. Thanks for joining us. Be good. Be good to each other. Bye.
Peace.